Hello again there, everybody. Kyle Neddenriff from the Indy Star. Thanks for joining me here. And what a weird, is hot last week. We had storms. It was 90 something, and this week I'm glad I packed a sweatshirt in my backpack because it got a little cool in the second half, and just kind of very windy, kind of weird weather again. I'll definitely take this though over what we had last week with the storms and the cancellations of games, the postponements of games, and all that fun we had. We got the game in tonight. My game was Whiteland and Decatur Central. Decatur Central, man, they're fast. Kasmir Hicks, man, he's quite a speedster. The junior had a 66-yard interception return for a touchdown. He had 2 touchdown receptions on short passes from Bo Polston, the Toledo recruit at quarterback for Decatur. And Decatur goes on and wins 43-29. This was an interesting game. It was it felt like, and right away, Decatur got on the board immediately. The first play of the game on a long pass to Hicks from Polston that he took the distance and really kind of got them off to a fast start right away. A 64-yard touchdown pass. Whiteland came back as Xander Height had a 26-yard pass from Oliver Taylor to tie it up, and then Hicks scores again, 37-yard pass, kind of a swing pass. He just took it to the house, and then Inpo Dodo scored from 21 yards out. So Decatur was in command at 21-7 at halftime. Whiteland comes right back, scores to start the second half, and then Farrell Carter got a 69-yard run on the first offensive play of the second half for Decatur. So it's 28-14 at that point. Whiteland comes right back, scores again. Jordan Palmer on a 10-yard pass from Taylor into the end zone. That was an impressive drive by Whiteland, kind of an answer to what Decatur had going. That made it 28-21, and it felt like we're maybe in for a quality fourth quarter, especially after Whiteland then got a onside kick. So they were in position, onside kick, had the ball, driving as the fourth quarter started, and I think they were at the 32-yard line of Decatur at that juncture in the game, and kind of an ill-advised pass, and I'll have a little more on this later, but Darren Fisher from Whiteland said, we have to block the end better. Taylor tried to get rid of it, and it sure enough found the hands of Hicks again, who carried it 66 yards for an interception return for a touchdown. And then the Decatur got the 2-point conversion. That made it 36-21. And really at that point it didn't feel like Whiteland was going into the wind at that point in the game in the fourth quarter. And they just, they had another fumble for a turnover. Dodo scores on a 5-yard run that the pitch almost went over his head. He kind of hit it in the air, caught it out of the air, then ran it in 5 yards for a touchdown. Degree of difficulty 9.9 on that play, but able to take it in and put Decatur ahead 43-21. Whiteland had the ball once more, but it was just like a long, basically just a really long return. A drive. They ended up scoring on that and got the 2-pointer, but that was just basically the end of the game. It was 43-29 final. Decatur Central wins it. Man, yeah, you talk about speed. Decatur's got a lot of it. They're going to be able to really put up some points with that speed of Dodo and Carter and Hicks and Hicks. He has offers from Indiana, Purdue, Vanderbilt, almost all of the MAC. He's got Cincinnati has also offered him, and that guy's a real deal. He looks like a Division One, like high level Division One. Whatever is it, Power 5, Power 4, whatever the case is now. But yeah, he's just a really good player, really fast, athletic. Bo Polston ended up, and I'll have to get his stats together. I think I do have him here, but I think he had 251 passing yards, so pretty good night for him. It felt like Decatur didn't really even have the ball that often. I mean, it was just kind of, big play, score, and get in the end zone. Whiteland would have those long drives kind of like they do. That's kind of the way they play. Slade Valentine had a good game for Whiteland. And Darren Fisher after the game, just said, man, we made a lot of mistakes, a lot of things. Whiteland can't beat Whiteland is kind of their motto, and he said he felt like they did that tonight, while also giving credit to Decatur. And this is obviously a big rivalry game. These two teams will play each other most likely again down the road. Although Plainfield will have some say in that also. Plainfield is a very good team, and I will discuss their game briefly here in a moment. But they're in that same sectional too. So you got those three all together in a 5A sectional. Any one of those three teams can probably make a run to state. I think Whiteland's a legitimate threat. If they played Decatur again, I would think they would do a better job limiting the big plays that they allowed tonight. I didn't think they played poorly. I think if Darren Fisher obviously knows his team better than I do, but it didn't, to the layman and myself covering the game, it felt like they could have done some things better, but didn't feel like they, there were some costly turnovers, obviously. Didn't feel like they played just really poorly either. I think Decatur had something to do with that tonight. So Whiteland drops to 1-1. That was a team that, they weren't able to finish their game last week against Kokomo. Likewise with Decatur. Decatur was playing New Pal. Those are two of the better games last week that were unable to get finished. Both were tied at half and unable to continue. But Decatur was 2 weeks removed from losing to Columbus North 41-15, and I'll have more about that and kind of how they put that behind them in the printed version of the story. But certainly did put it behind them. They've got Martinsville next week. Martinsville is off to a very good start to this season. So that'll be another tough challenge for Decatur, but hard to imagine Decatur won't be one of the best teams in 5A, when all's said and done, and maybe have a chance to get back and play for a state championship like they did last season. So a good solid win tonight for Decatur Central, and I think better things ahead for Whiteland as well. I think that's a really good team. They've got some, Slate Valentine, he's a little bit dinged up, it sounded like, at the end of this game. He definitely walking off under his own power and everything. He had he did have a fumble. Coach Fisher said he got kind of banged up on that play, but had a good game. A very elusive, hard, tough runner that I think will only get better as the season goes along. Had a great year last year, almost 2,000 yards last year for Whiteland. So looking around, some of the other scores from week 3, HSE, I know they were in a battle with Avon. HSE ends up winning that game 28-10. Avon, it sounded like Jace Cameron, unfortunately, their quarterback was hurt in that game. Brian Hinchin covered that game for us. HSE was down 10-7 late in that game, able to kind of pull away in the fourth quarter and go on and win against an Avon team that was coming off a really big win last week against Ben Davis. So I was kind of curious how they would respond to that. And HSE just kind of a machine at this point. They're just a really good team that's only going to be a big problem for teams in Class 6A, I think, in the sectional. Kind of a weird score. Bishop Chatard beat Roncalli tonight 9-3. So Chatard able to get it done with looked like a long drive in the second half and a touchdown run by Daniel Shaw, but very low scoring game. I think that probably bodes well for Roncalli, that they could hang in there with Chatard, and obviously you don't just want to hang in if you're Roncalli in a rivalry game like that, but that was a game. Roncalli actually led that game 3-0 at halftime, so they're right in there, obviously, and just not enough offense tonight against a very good Chatard defense. Brownsburg 40-0 beats Franklin Central. That was a game that kind of got out of hand in the second quarter. Brownsburg, I know Clark Wade was out there. You can look for highlights of that game on IndyStar.com. Clark was there with all that. Maybe the story of the night, though, Triton Central 16-13 to end Lutheran's long winning streak. And what was it, 44 games, I believe, Lutheran was on as far as their streak goes. And so Triton Central, I know, celebrating out there tonight. Saw a little bit of video about that. Very huge win. Obviously, that rivalry's been good over the years in the Indiana Crossroads Conference. And Lutheran goes down for the first time in a long time. That was the first loss for Lutheran since the 2020 season, when they played Covenant Christian. So obviously had won 3 in a row as far as state championships go in 1A. Lutheran had moved up to 2A this year. So 15-0. The last loss they had was November 6th of 2020 in the sectional to Covenant Christian. 15-0 in 2021, 15-0 in 22, 13-0 last year. So that gets you to 43. So actually there were 45 games, and I had that earlier and forgot. But yeah, 45 wins in a row. Lutheran goes down to defeat tonight to Triton Central. Tim Abel's ball club able to get it done tonight, 16-13. Saw that was 10-7 at halftime, and Triton Central able to hang on and win that one. So obviously a huge win for that program, and Lutheran, a historic 45-game winning streak, goes by the wayside tonight. Fishers beat Noblesville 17-10. That was an overtime game. Fishers actually scored 14 points in the fourth, and trailed that game 14-0. So another tough, just a tough, close loss again for Noblesville. It just seems like they can't quite get over the hump and win those close ones, especially in the HCC. But it looked like they were able to. John Anthony Hall did have 97 receiving yards, which, if I'm Noblesville, probably feel pretty good about that. All things considered. But he did catch a pass in the fourth quarter from Gage Sturgill, and was able to tie that game. And then they kick a field goal in overtime to win it. So Fishers beats Noblesville 17-14 in OT. Plainfield, mentioned them earlier, all over Mooresville tonight, 42-0. So very dominant win for Plainfield. So you mentioned that sectional that has the teams I covered tonight with Decatur and Whiteland, but also you have to consider Plainfield as a real contender in that class and in that sectional as well. Brebeuf Jesuit 56-28 beat Harrison tonight, and really that was a 49-20 game at halftime. So absolutely a ton of offense in that game for Brebeuf. We'll have more about that, and you can check out all the stuff at IndyStar.com in our box scores. Indian Creek beat Owen Valley 42-0. Greenfield Central comes back to beat Mount Vernon. That was 43-29. I know that they were down at halftime. Greenfield was able to come back and win. Martinsville beat Greenwood 50-31. So mentioned Martinsville plays Decatur Central next week. They were able to get a win over Greenfield tonight, stay unbeaten. Austin Pryor, who I mentioned in our splash players, players who were maybe off the radar but have really started the season well. He had a big game again, 175 rushing and 3 touchdowns tonight for the Artesians on the road. That game was a good battle. Into halftime it was 22-19. Greenfield only down by 3 in that one into the second half. Carmel, big win over Centerville, Ohio, 44-23, going on the road in Ohio. And there was some of that tonight that we saw that good wins on the road. Center Grove also had one, 24-10 at Louisville Trinity, and I know Trinity, talking to some people this week, they might be the best team in Kentucky. So a really good win for Center Grove, 24-10 in that one, to go on the road and beat Louisville Trinity. Last we heard on St. Xavier and Cathedral was 14-14 at halftime. So hadn't heard a final on that one. That was another out-of-state battle that it was kind of curious to see what happened with that one. So again, actually, and I did see a final here. St. Xavier wins 35-31. So that's obviously a tough loss for Cathedral. St. Xavier, year in and year out, annually, just a really good team. So no shame in that, but from a selfish standpoint, like to see our in-state teams do well when they go on the road or play at home against those out-of-state teams. So again, 35-31, St. Xavier knocks off Cathedral tonight. Going through a good win for Perry Meridian. They beat Franklin 12-7 in a defensive game. Sheridan beats Tri Central 29-0. Looking through some of these other scores, Ben Davis beats Pike tonight. Hadn't mentioned that one, 38-14. Kind of wondered if Ben Davis would get right tonight, and they certainly do against a Pike team that was 2-0 and off to a good start. And obviously, all is not lost there for Pike either. But Ben Davis able to get in the win column for the first time this year, 38-14. Cascade rolls over Edgewood, 42-0. Columbus North again, they keep rolling, 45-14 over Southport. Addicts beats Tinley, 42-6. Danville, a really good win over a solid Lebanon team, 21-10. Delta beats Shelbyville, 37-7. Again, you can find all these scores at IndyStar.com. Guerin Catholic in a wild one, 53-34 beats Heritage Christian, 53-34. That was a wild game. Greenwood Christian again, another good win, 49-14 over West Dell. Lapel beat Shenandoah, 41-21. Let's see, Lawrence Central was beating Edwardsville, Illinois. That's another good opponent there, out-of-state opponent. That was a 20-14 game at halftime, and it looks like they did go on to win. So a good win for the Bears at 22-21 is what I have here. Also, Lawrence North, should mention that as well. They go to Wayne, Ohio tonight, and against a good Wayne team, they win 45-21. So another pretty good week it looks like, or a good night overall for our in-state teams against out-of-state competition. So both Lawrence schools go out-of-state tonight and win. Let's see, Monrovia beats Cardinal Ritter 44-7. McCutcheon beat Hamilton Heights 31-2. I believe that's the right score. New Pal 41-13 over Yorktown. Park Tudor beat Shortridge tonight 28-20, a close game. Pendleton Heights 42-21 over Newcastle. Mentioned the Plainfield Mooresville score 42-0 Plainfield. Cecina beat Covenant Christian 34-0. That is a first win for Coach Harris there at Cecina. South Decatur beat Edinburgh 42-0. Speedway wins over Beech Grove 48-26. Tri-West 69-8 over Frankfort. And Warren Central still has not allowed a point. Hadn't mentioned the Warriors yet. 30-0. So 3 games into the season and 0 points allowed for Warren Central. If you allow 0 all season, I think it's going to be a pretty good year for Warren Central. Westfield also hadn't mentioned the top team in the state in Class 6A. They win tonight 28-10 over Zionsville. Will certainly, I'm sure, keep hold of that number 1 spot, I would think, going into week 4. Western Boone 41-0 over Crawfordsville. Washington beat Crystal House 48-0. And I think that is about all I had as far as scores go for tonight. Let's see here. Yeah, so obviously some of the bigger games tonight, those big 6A games. Westfield wins, Brownsburg wins, Warren Central wins, HSE wins, Center Grove wins on the road, Cathedral gets beat by St. Xavier, Carmel wins against Centerville, Lawrence North wins, and Columbus North wins. So a lot of teams expected to win, or at least teams that are ranked in the top 10 go ahead and win. So not a lot of huge surprises there as far as ranked teams getting beat. So again, appreciate you joining me here from week 3. Thoughts from the car, scores from the car, and again, thanks for being part of it. We have a lot more at IndyStar.com if you want to check there for our stories. Again, my game 43-29. Decatur Central wins over Whiteland tonight. And Kasmir Hicks, probably the story of the night. He's a very good player. Got a chance to see him in person for the first time. Very fast, very elusive, and he burned Whiteland a few times tonight, including on defense with the 66-yard interception return for a touchdown. So, very good Decatur team. Will be fun to see these teams potentially match up again. But appreciate it. Thank you. We'll talk to you next time.